Save the city or catch your greatest enemy. You can't do both.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
You can't do both, I said.
No, I mean the other thing.
Save the city or catch your greatest enemy.
You think you're my greatest enemy?
Yes! You're obsessed with me!
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are! Who else drives you?
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. It's time to talk about all things Batman. As I mentioned yesterday, if you saw my Batman 89 video, unfortunately, Josh is under the weather. Please, if you get a chance, go out there and let him know on social media that you're wishing him well. Maybe you got some thoughts and prayers out there for him. Go to his Pop By Culture website. Go leave a comment on one of his articles and say, hey, Josh, we're hoping that you feel better and we missed you on This Week in Batman on Thinking Critical. Let him know that we're all looking out for him and wishing him nothing but the best. So I'm going to be doing this solo, obviously. And I'm reading far too much Batman for my liking anymore. And some people are going to be like, at the end, they're like, you never covered Pennyworth #2. No, I didn't. I did not like the first issue. It doesn't seem all that important to the Batman legacy or DC Universe or anything. So I'm going to be doing an old skipperoonie on that one. If Josh was here at the end, I'd let him give a 5-minute spiel on Pennyworth. But I just, I only have so much money, right? And I'm not going to waste it on something like that. Speaking of only so much money, we're going to talk about Batman Urban Legends #7, Joker #7, and I Am Batman #1. I thought, yeah, I guess that last zero issue was a little strange. We finally got the very first issue. It's a mixed bag. There's some okay stuff in here, some things I like within each of these comic books, and some things I do not like within each of these comic books, and I will get into them a little bit more detail. Normally, I would give my general feelings and let Josh give most of the meat in these, because obviously he is the Batman expert. But I don't have a Batman expert. I've only got me. So you get my opinions on these. The first one we are going to cover is Batman Urban Legends #7. Obviously, this is an anthology. I only got through the first 2 stories before I got so fed up with it that I decided I wasn't going to read the last 2. So I definitely wasted my money here. And these are all like one-shots about Batman, sort of. And they're all kind of set in the future. So if you want to see weird, different versions of Batman in the future, this might be the comic book for you. It was not the comic for me. And specifically, it's because of the very first story called Wake from Jackson Lanzig, Colin Kelly as the writers, Max Dunbar on art. And this is leading up to a special Batman Beyond miniseries, it sounds like, in 2022. I believe it's actually going to start in April. Hey, Terry McGinnis is cool. I like Batman Beyond. I think it's a cool concept. Should they have left it in the animated universe? Perhaps. But I think it works in comic books. Obviously, we haven't had a Batman Beyond since Dan Jurgens' very, very high quality DC Rebirth run ended. And if you never read that and you're interested in the character, go read that one. I think you're going to like it. If you like Bruce Wayne and you like the lore behind the death of his parents and the reason he has motivation and what has been motivating him his entire life, you are going to hate this story just as much as I did, in my opinion. There's some interesting things about this. There's an interesting concept, which overall, I think the concept itself behind this story, Wake, is good. Basically, Bruce Wayne is dying. Somebody has gotten the drop on him at his older age. We've got Terry McGinnis, obviously, is firmly established as Batman Beyond, or the next Batman in training. Bruce Wayne is dying, and he's talking to him and giving him, like his last dying words are to Terry. And it's kind of cool. We're getting the conversation. Specifically, you see the two talking, but as he's investigating, or at least opening up the investigation into what happened to Bruce, you're getting the story. And the investigation and everything, it's kind of cool. It's not the most original idea of who got the drop on Bruce Wayne. Is it? Yeah, not even in Batman it isn't. But it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with the idea behind the story and how Bruce Wayne kind of eats it, or is the way that he dies in this. It's what he says, specifically about the day his parents died, that is just nauseating is probably the best word. You would think Tom King wrote this. That's what kind of like character assassination is. Now, I could see somebody saying, listen, Wes, he's on his deathbed. Some people say things or exaggerate things, and maybe they say things that they don't mean on their deathbed. Well, I'll give you that one. But this is Bruce Wayne, the man that's been overcome by fear toxin more times than you can count, and always had the presence of mind and the will to overcome it. How many times is Batman, been trapped inside his own mind and escaped it? He's quite resilient, specifically his will, his spirit, his emotions. And he knows who he is. So as he's telling Terry, the way to remember him and kind of inspiring him to become the next Batman, he does it at his own expense, at his own legacy. Specifically, obviously, it's not Bruce Wayne. It's Jackson Lanzing and Colin Kelly doing it. And like he says specifically, I know my mother wasn't proud of me because she was dead before she hit the ground and she felt nothing. Apparently, that's an epiphany that he had, which was really strange. But it's what he says about his father. And he says, like his father's not proud of him because in his last moments, Thomas Wayne saw far past the alley. He was afraid not of a gun or a criminal. He was afraid of me, afraid of Bruce, afraid of the bat, which he saw before Bruce ever did. His father, in his dying moments, saw his son Bruce and was afraid of him because he had seen what he was destined to become. This is some next level Tom King. I think I'm doing something really deep, but I don't understand exactly what I'm trying to say about the character and the way his father felt about him as he was dying and breathing his last breaths, looking at his son in that alley where he basically took up his mission to rid Gotham of crime. I thought this was disgusting. Like nauseating, revolting is the only way I could describe this. I cannot wait to hear from the people that defend shit like this. Like, I don't get it. It's such it's just in poor taste. That's the way I'll put it. The second story I got through, it's far better, but I'm still mad. The second story is called The Executive Game. It's by Tim Seeley, not the greatest writer in the world, but he does fine sometimes. Juan Ferreira, an artist I love, perfectly good, and I do like the art in this comic book. And it's interesting. It's Damian Wayne, aka like Batman 666, as he's ascending the different levels of hell and vanquishing different villains that represent the seven deadly sins, i.e., like Dante's Inferno kind of thing. And you kind of find out at the end, like maybe he sold his soul out, for the city. It didn't turn out well. Like, who the hell is Damian Wayne? Can somebody at DC Comics explain to me who Damian Wayne is? I know that he was born into a very bad situation. He was literally raised by killers. I believe he's died when in the Lazarus pit. That doesn't always work out well for your mental stability and long-term outlook as far as being a hero. But he willingly joins up with his father and kind of follows in his footsteps. He was an understudy to Dick Grayson. Is he always destined to be some type of failure or destined to become the big villain in the entire DC universe? I think it feels like it's been established multiple times that he is the next Batman, that he does get reformed, that he does humble himself to a degree and continue on his father's mission as a hero. Perhaps, gray the line is a bit of an anti-hero, but a hero nonetheless. Certainly not a Jason Todd type figure. You say, yes, well, Damian Wayne's killed. Yes, but he's redeemed himself since then. But every time it's so confusing. Every time they show him in the future, you watch Deceased, you're like, oh, that's perfect. He finally realizes he's ready to replace his father. His father realized he was ready to replace him, and he steps up and becomes the Batman that we always envisioned Damian Wayne could be. But you always get this stuff where he's like making deals with the devil and selling his soul and stuff, or he ends up being this enormous villain. Like, who is Damian Wayne? Can somebody please just figure out who the character is and let that be who the character is? I'm tired of seeing so many goddamn versions of Damian. Figure out who he is and let that be who he is. I'm tired of like 15 different future versions of this one character. What is he going to clone himself and just have 15 different destinies? It's the Omniverse. Everything counts now. Can we get a little bit of continuity and stability with this damn character? For now on, as far as I'm concerned, only Joshua Williamson should be writing anything to do with Damian Wayne until it's firmly established within DC Comics who the damn character is. Otherwise, it's a fine story. It's interesting. It's got some cool elements, but it's like, God, can you figure out who this goddamn character is? And that's my frustration with that one. Do not read Batman Urban Legends. It's not worth $1, let alone the fucking $8 that you're going to spend on that damn thing. Speaking of not being worth the money, the Joker #7 comes in at a hefty $6 for a pretty mundane, basic story. This is the best comic of the bunch this week because there's some strong elements to it. There's one part of it that, I don't know, for some reason, anytime James Tynion writes the Joker story, he just makes Gordon really boring. but everything else in the story is fine. The art by Guillaume March is absolutely fantastic. I don't read the backup story. I'm so far beyond that stupid punchline story. It's not even funny. If you like that one, that's great. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't even touch it. Thus making the $6 price point even worse for me because I don't even read the $2 tacked on bullshit story yet. The big news, obviously, coming out of the Joker #7 is the reemergence, the reappearance of Julia Pennyworth, the daughter, obviously, of Alfred Pennyworth. She is absolutely portrayed as James Bond. She even does the Pennyworth, Julia Pennyworth. And you know, her cover's blown because Barbara Gordon calls her while she's in the middle of I don't know. She's on Bane's Island. And they're going to make like a theme park based off of Bane or something stupid, and she's doing some undercover work. I'm undecided on this. Is Julia Pennyworth going to be a good addition to this? Probably not, just based on some of the things I've seen, but it could be cool. Basically, you have Julia Bond added to the story, working in conjunction with Oracle. The best part of the story is definitely the little Batgirls adventure that you get with Stephanie Brown, with Barbara Gordon and Cassandra Cain. Like it's kind of cool with what they're doing, and it's pretty interesting. And we see Talon show up, and they have to fight him off. But there's something wrong with him. Like it's not the real Talon, or it's a new Talon. They're not really sure. That part's really cool. Actually, like that one quite a bit. But the problem is Gordon. He's been apprehended by the Paris police department because he's been framed for murder. Turns out the Joker has placed his fingerprints on the murder weapon and is used against 3 people. And there's this weird, I think it's weird, interaction between Gordon and the Parisian police commissioner, this female. I don't remember her name. Are they flirting? I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. Is it a battle of wits? She knows he's the police chief from Gotham City, the most crime-ridden city in the entire world. He's gonna know all their methods for breaking him and everything. And it turns out they're Joker and people within the network, the network of little safe houses around the world, they're harvesting organs so they could, I guess, fake the deaths of villains, but Gordon doesn't buy it. But the Parisian police commissioner wants to get in cahoots with Gordon, who's already in cahoots with that lady that's got all the money, is going to pay him $25 million to kill Joker. And she wants him to go in there to go and discover whether the network is in Europe. And then she's going to use all of her resources to go break it apart for it. So they're going to work together. And then Lady Bane shows up and ruins their dinner, where I think they're flirting, but I'm not really sure. I don't know why he makes Gordon so introspective. Gordon's always felt like a measured character, but it's certainly a character of action. it was weird. It's like a dick measuring contest to see who was like the smartest cop. It was stupid. That doesn't feel like Gordon to me. And every time he writes Gordon in here, it's just really long-winded. And anytime he writes like a scene for Gordon in the Joker, the entire book almost comes to a standstill, unfortunately. I do recommend it because there are some cool parts about it. I just wish he would spice up that Gordon dialogue and make it a little bit better. That's me. I imagine a lot of people think this is like the tits, but I kind of disagree. I think it's right in the middle, not nearly as good as I expected. And then the final comic we'll talk about is I Am Batman #1 from John Ridley. We get a major upgrade as far as the visuals from Olivier Coipel. I don't really have a problem with Travel Foreman, but I thought the art in the last issue and issue 0 absolutely blew. I thought it was the most basic bitch, like shit art like you could find. It was so boring. The Olivier Coipel art is far better. It's got a lot more atmosphere to it. It's got a lot more, I don't know, it's like there's just more texture to the imagery, and it looks a lot better. Fits Gotham more than what we had before. Obviously, this is kind of tying into Fear State to a degree. Not a whole lot, but definitely did there. It's basically just a really generic Batman adventure, kind of to establish Jace Fox, like who he is and what he represents and like kind of what some of his capabilities are. We still don't know why he's doing this, really. That's one of the things I'm still confused about the character. I don't know why he wants to be Batman. We also learn kind of like what tech he has. Like he's got a new set of armor, and of course it's better than Bruce Wayne's, but he doesn't want all that equipment. And when he's talking about it, there's so many weird characterizations about Bruce Wayne. That's really what holds this comic back. Otherwise, it was perfectly fine generic Batman comic. Like he says about the equipment, he says Batman had a big ass car and a flying thing, but had any regular people actually seen him in maybe 6 years, Batman's dead, and it's like he never existed. What are you talking about? People know that Batman exists. He's been fighting crime for decades now. And not only that, he literally just saved the city from City of Bane when Bane took over the city with Flashpoint Batman, but he just saved the city from Joker during Joker War. Who was confused about Batman existing? And people have absolutely seen the Batmobile and the Batman fly thingy, whatever he wants to call it, and his equipment, and they've certainly seen Batman. We've seen little kids see him, when he's going through the alleyways and stuff, and he talks to him. So I just thought that was really bad characterization. John Ridley is terrible about this. In his mind, he's getting over the new character, but he's making himself look stupid because you can tell he hasn't actually been reading comic books. Also, when we're saying like the Batman's dead, obviously that was introduced in Batman Fear State Alpha when the Anti-Oracle was putting this information out there. Now that character is referred to the Seer. As far as I can see, the Seer just comes out of nowhere. Like he knows who the Seer is, and he's kind of he's aware of what the Seer is. When was that introduced in I Am Batman? We've been reading this. I've never seen him encounter this character or any of this stuff, but he's all completely aware of it. Like, they really need to tighten this shit up because it is not tight. Let's put it that way. Also, as they're establishing the character, as I kind of mentioned before, a lot of it is essentially at the expense of Bruce Wayne or, kind of talking down about the original Batman. At one point, this is so weird. He says he's speaking kind of it's inner monologue where you see some towers in Gotham, and he says how many years Batman spent mapping every one of those towers to make them his battleground. But you fight in the sky, you miss the struggles on the ground. When was Batman not on the ground? He's had boots on the ground the entire time he's been in Gotham. Who are you talking about, John Ridley? You're not talking about Bruce Wayne. You're not talking about DC Comics Universe Batman. You're talking about the Batman in your own imagination. Like, none of this shit makes sense. Why does Jace Fox want to become Batman if he thinks Batman's a piece of shit that wouldn't help people with, on the ground? And if you want to become Batman, you should at least understand who the character is, and it makes Jace Fox look like an idiot when clearly it's John Ridley that doesn't know what's going on. There's also like a side quest between Chubb and Whitaker, which obviously would have been introduced in Batman Fear State, Obviously, these are in Fear State. Batman Future State. Obviously, these are them in their earlier days. They don't come off as compelling allies or foils for the magistrate at all. So I appreciate that he's trying to give some character development and give them some spotlight and some shine and make them feel important. It does not work. They don't feel important. They just feel like throwaway character. And like if we get rid of these two nondescript, boring characters that don't feel all that capable, and actually bring in some cops that are worth a damn, it would be appreciated. Like if you read Daredevil, the one Cole, Detective Cole that they introduced there. Now that's a cop that feels like he should be there. He makes an impression. These two are completely, I don't know, they're white noise as far as I'm concerned in this comic book. So I do not recommend I Am Batman. I don't think Jace Fox is a compelling character. You don't know why he wants to be Batman yet. And it is really generic, and he's like talking crap about Bruce Wayne. That does not make you a good successor to Batman, in my opinion. So I just think John Ridley is a really bad comic book writer, in my opinion. So that is it. That is This Week in Batman. If you want to know about Batman 89, but you haven't watched the video yet, I posted that yesterday evening. You'll have to go watch that one. I was quite frustrated with that. It's not Batman 89. Let's put it that way. Batman Urban Legends, that first story just ruined it. Whatever this issue could have been, it could have been great. I wouldn't know. I got through that first story. I was sick to my stomach what Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzig had to say about Bruce Wayne and his relationship with his father during his dying breath, and the fact that his father saw that he was going to become like some type of villain or something. I thought it was just awful take on their relationship. The Executive Game by Tim Seeley, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of interesting. Who the hell is Damian Wayne? Let's get some character stability there. Joker #7, I absolutely recommend it, even at $6. Well, because it's $6, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you really like the story, there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. I just wish they would make Gordon not boring anymore, because he's been very boring in the story, and it probably should be called The Gordon instead of The Joker. And then I Am Batman, I just talked about that one. Not impressed. It's some basic, boring stuff. But the art by Olivia Copiel is a massive step up from Travel Form, in my opinion. That's This Week at Batman. I'm sorry Josh couldn't make it. He will be back next week. At least I believe he will be. Hopefully he's feeling better by then. If you can, go hit him up and say, Josh, we missed you. You are good. Fred, your takes on Batman are much better than Wes's takes, and I'll admit that. And we need you back next week.